Hello, and welcome to Phil's Corner. Phil's Corner live on a Thursday afternoon, which means we are ranking shirts for the Hot Wall. As I just tweak my setup, a warm welcome, especially if you are tuning in for the first time, if you are new, or maybe you are an old-time viewer. Nonetheless, good to have you here. And today we are starting the stream with a focus on the new Manchester City shirts. So if you're a City fan watching, or indeed a fan of throwback kits, then you've got a good one to start today with. But welcome to excuse me, regular viewer Daredevil. This is what up, Phil, you already know. Happy Friday Junior. Happy Friday Junior indeed to you, my friend. And for those who may have missed my message on the YouTube community page, I've just realised I need to, give me 1 second guys, I need to sort out my views section there. It's over here I believe, so if I just, sorry 1 second, I'm going to move that here. How does that look? Hey Andreas, good to see you. Yeah, I did have my X views, my Twitter views. I'm going to try and fix that now live on the stream, which of course can only go well. Okay, so we want to go. What's that called? Sorry, again, apologies for those who are. Is it there? Not sure if that's actually going to work. I think we are. Again, I'm not going to waste too much time on this. Let's try that. How does that look? Hopefully now you can see. How's that? There we go. We got there eventually. Yeah, I think that is now the correct. Hopefully, again, I'm just checking on my screen. There we go. We got the number of views next. Anyway, hey Jazz, good to see you guys. Welcome. Bit of a slow start there, but good to have you guys along. If you're watching this for the first time, do be sure to subscribe and leave a like as well on the video if you enjoy today's stream. And I was going to say just before I got distracted that if you missed my message on the YouTube community page, the panel, there won't be, well, there wasn't an eBay stream last Tuesday. There also won't be one, this coming Tuesday. But we will have the Hot Wall next week, and on Monday, the 19th of August, so just a couple of weeks away, we are going to be starting our Monday morning stream, which is going to be a weekly roundup of the latest shirt news and my reactions to that. A slightly shorter stream. But also space for Q&A, but just another regular show alongside again eBay and the Hot Wall. Hey Balam, thank you. Yes, I was pretty happy with. Well, hopefully the sound is good, but it was just the having our little section at the bottom here of the views for Twitter. I think we've got it now. Anyway, guys, without further ado, let us go to the Hot Wall now. If you caught us on the last stream, on the last football stream, you'll know that we have tidied up the tier list a little bit. Excuse me. Notably removing what was the brand section. I think on reflection it was not the most intuitive to view, and it was a little bit clunky. It also added a lot of time just to maintain. So we're stripping it back, just shirts in the usual 4 tiers. Yes, so Balam, it will be probably earlier. I'm hoping, I'm aiming for kind of like an 8 AM UK time, which is my thinking is if we can get it out as people are commuting or early on, it could be something that people may want to start their weeks with. And of course, for guys in the States, you can have that as you wake up. But yeah, we'll tweak it. We'll see how it goes. Hey, Ian, good to see you, mate. But I'm also saying Julian Alvarez to Atleti is very interesting since he made a big profit on him after signing for 30 million. They did. I do like him though. I think he's a good player. But anyway, coming to the tiers again. The same tiers we know and love. But we've removed the brand section. We do have a lot of shirts to catch up on, and I must say, yeah, it's funny how even just a couple of weeks you fall behind quite quickly. We will do well. We'll see how many we can get through today. It's probably going to be. I mean, if we start with City, yeah, we'll see how many we can get through. I'm trying to think what we ended on last time. Obviously, we were kind of cherry picking our way, weren't we? Through shirts, we had the likes of Huddersfield that we looked at. We had Roma as well last time. So I think I saw Roma actually on the on here. Okay, so we could probably catch up at least with last week, and then there'll be a job at some point in a future week to catch up. But anyway, let's rank the City away kit now. Of course, this is hot off the press, but in many ways we already know a lot about this design. It's referencing very heavily, as this webpage loads, very heavily the I'm going to go back here. Very heavily the Manchester City 1999 or 98-99 away shirt, I believe it was, or was it a third shirt? I believe it was an away shirt. And this was, or I would argue it's probably the most famous City alternate shirt that is an away or third shirt in their history. And speaking briefly about this on Twitter today, I described it as City's own Bruiser Banana shirt. And I think a lot of clubs have this, and I was trying to formulate my thoughts today. And I think I would describe a Bruiser Banana shirt as a particularly unusual, even garish design from history, which is often at the time widely criticised, but becomes over time more and more notorious and even loved. And the passage of time does many things, and I think one of the things is that actually some of the crazier designs, which often are hated, become loved. And much like the Bruiser Banana, which now is certainly iconic, and it was memorable, and I wasn't alive at the time when it was released, but certainly from people who were, they said it was widely panned, but now people look up to it. And I think it's a very similar story. Of course, there's a particular wrinkle with this City shirt, or the shirt that inspired the City shirt, in that of course this was worn when City won the player final in the second division, and that's why Paul Dickov is all over the promos. But this is a very close shirt to that original. The original was a Kappa shirt, and there are differences. For example, the sleeves. In fact, if we bring up the original, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Let's go to old football shirts. My internet seems a bit slow today. And if we go to excuse me, let's just have some reference pictures. So you can see here the original Kappa shirt. There were some notable differences, particularly the sleeves. The City shirt having again this kind of modern cut. Apologies, my internet again. I am wired in, but it's a bit slow. Anyway, you can see here with the separate sleeves, or the kind of construction, they've been left blank, but it is largely very similar. If we just do a like for like comparison here, you can see in terms of the number of stripes on the front, if you were to count the kind of outer luminous section of stripes, indeed similar stripe number and thickness. The collar is very similar, and the cuffs. So it's a very close remake. Of course, the other key difference is that the sponsor panel, which was luminous yellow, and the original is in the dark navy. Other things, the pinstripes slightly brighter and potentially a little bit wider, but certainly very similar again. The back, sadly, is mostly plain. Hey JPR, good to see you, mate. This is a classic thing, isn't it? You see in modern shirts where there's the start of stripes. Excuse me. I should stop eating lunch just before I go live. I think that's definitely an issue. Anyway, that's a side point. Yeah, they've done a token nod to the stripes. It's a shame. I mean, I love these kind of old school panels, but yeah, for various reasons that's not there. But what's great is this is unashamedly a close remake, about as close as you see really. And honestly, it's been 25 years since this shirt, which I think is a good length of time. And City haven't really had a shirt that's properly paid tribute to this. We did have, I actually quite liked this Nike shirt, and it was a very subtle nod to the kit, to the 98-99 kit, but I quite like that. But essentially, City haven't really, you know, apart from, you could argue that shirts like this were tangentially, you know what word I'm trying to say, related. But anyway, a close remake, but given the shirt's notoriety, and I think it holds that very particular place in the club's back catalogue, the original, that I like seeing it. And actually, as a neutral, even if you can call a Liverpool fan a neutral, as a rival fan, you could say, I think this shirt has a lot going for it. But of course, it is a very close remake, and I think, you know, there is a discussion to be had around what makes a good retro or throwback shirt. Sometimes little differences actually can improve on the kit, and I think this isn't as successful as something like the Sunderland shirt. Now, again, if you want to see more thoughts on that shirt, I was, of course, part of the new series that the club have been doing, excuse me, called In the Fabric. You can check that out just recently on Sunderland's YouTube channel. I've also shared the link through Twitter. I think in many ways that shirt even improved on the original, and I loved, you know, the remake, and I put it in the Volcano tier. I think this shirt is very good, and I do think it is a hot shirt. I don't think it improves on the original, and you know, in some ways it's partly because of, you know, modern design sensibilities. I would actually think the shirt is more in this kind of territory for me, and you know, it is things like the plain back, but also even just having the luminous yellow on the sleeves like the original did would have been an improvement. There's reasons why it hasn't been done, but I would think, all in all, we're looking at something in this area of the tier list. It's looking a bit sparse down here, so let's go here for City. And I think if you're a City fan, you're going to love this shirt, and I actually do think it is one of the better Puma City shirts. Yes, it's a close remake, but that is what we want sometimes. You know, it's a bit like with the MLS archive collection. Now, they weren't necessarily close remakes, but heavily referential. But honestly, sometimes that's what you want. Good to get some thoughts on the chat. Daredevil says, wish they would have done the old crest. Yeah, I think that would have been cool. I mean, in some ways, it's, you know, I can understand not doing it, but given the amount of retro crests or alternate crests we've seen, that would have been cool. Would have made the kit look better, says Daredevil. Daredevil also saying Chelsea don't have a Bruiser Banana kit. It's funny because they don't have an obvious choice, but if you were to go and look at their kits, I think there are some designs, for example, though not in the Bruiser Banana category, I do think when you look at the back catalogue, there are a couple of designs from the 90s which could fall into that category. I think the most obvious one for me is this shirt. It's the 94 away. I think this one is the closest thing, and in fact, I would say this is Chelsea's equivalent. I think this one does fall into that category, and I think of in terms of the ugliness of the design, it does look odd, especially with the almost looks like a kind of fishnet on the side of the shorts there. I think that's one where if Chelsea were to do a new version of that, and they have done shirts which kind of again loosely nod to it, but not really, I do think that would go down well. So I think that is Chelsea's Bruiser Banana. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to make a note. I think that'll be an interesting video, and I've been thinking about what to do for my next main Phil's Corner video. I think we'll do that. A discussion on shirts which are notorious. So I'm just making a note, and I don't want you to see all my notes. There we go. But that's this shirt. Daredevil also saying, saw the Sunderland video, great, and love hearing your feedback and expertise. Thank you, Daredevil. Do check that out, guys. I really enjoyed that content with Sunderland, and all the support for that just increases the chances that we'll be doing more stuff like that in future. Right, we will continue, and we won't spend as much time as that on every shirt because, of course, we have a lot to get through. But we'll come to Derby shirt. This is a very interesting colourway here. We've got a combination you don't often see of mint green, brown, and yellow. Now, the brown and yellow is used quite sparingly, essentially just in the collar by the looks of things and the cuffs. I believe this is referencing an old kit, but let's just take a look again using old football shirts as a reference point. I have vague memories of a brown Derby kit, but maybe I am misremembering. Again, this site isn't exhaustive. Okay, yes. So we had the mid 80s, the famous Bass sponsor or Base. I'm not sure if it was pronounced Bass or Base, but anyway, we'll call it Bass. Quite a distinctive colorway there, which is, I believe that's what they're referencing here. I may be completely wrong though. Okay, so we've got apparently a colour palette that goes back to 1884, so we're going right back. But anyway, what does the shirt look like in 2024 with this palette? I must say, I don't think it's a good combination. Now, brown on a kit is very tricky. We've seen some good brown kits over the years, but it's not an easy colour to make work. And I think more than anything, it's particularly what you pair brown with, and I don't think brown and mint is a good combo. On top of that, this pattern to me is very throwaway. It's quite a forgettable sort of pattern. It's not bad, but I think it's the kind of pattern which essentially looks like it's come out of a catalogue, and it does feel at odds when you've got this this design, which at least from a colour perspective is attempting to nod back to an old kit, paired with what is undoubtedly a modern design, albeit quite a boring design. I don't think that's a good combination. I don't like the way the gradient is used. It feels, again, like whilst at the top of the kit, it almost, you can see the thinking because of the way the shirt is cut with the construction. Having it abruptly cut off the pattern there, just like, either I would want to potentially continue that gradient, though it's a bit more complicated. You could do that and I think it would look better. I mean, if I want to go further, I actually don't like the way the crest is incorporated too, because of course having it as the cutout style with the pattern coming through, I think it muddies that area of the kit. So honestly, I actually think this is quite bad, and we have not had many Ice Cube tier shirts, but this is one of them. And I do think, actually, the more I've looked at it, the more things I've seen that I don't particularly like. I think this is a bad combo and a bad kit, and I would say this is a worthy entrant in our bottom tier. Again, I feel like, and maybe I'm misremembering, long-time viewers will be able to help me. I feel like we've not had many kits in the Ice Cube tier this year compared to previous years. It feels like that. I think certainly looking here, it looks like it's largely been a pretty good year, but I actually dislike this kit. I'm going to stick it here. One of my least favourites this year, and that is Derby and Puma. Sad to say for Derby fans. Staying in the Football League, we have Preston North End and Castor. Now, Castor have been in the news for unfortunate reasons on their side, in that the Bayer Leverkusen contract is reportedly set to be severed, or ties, or the partnership I should say, are set to be So Reddit reports are to be believed. Not a good look for the brand. This design is not too exciting. I think I'm interested to see the, like, on some of the pictures, the base of the shirt looks to have some sort of texture, but actually in reality it does look plain. I wondered if we had a bit of a kind of mild look. That is just the grain from the editing, so it is largely just a plain base, which looks to be black, if not very dark navy. And the monochrome crest is what it is. There's very little about this shirt. The colourway to me doesn't feel too strong. It's got a kind of general sports gym kind of vibe to me, like a, you know, sort of fairly generic sports lifestyle gym top. That's the vibe I get from it. I'm not seeing Preston come up here, so I don't know if my internet's gone. Again, do let me know if there's any problems with the stream, guys. Yeah, not impressed with this one, honestly. And I think, you know, if we compare it to the Derby shirt, I do think it's much better. But that's not saying much, because the Derby shirt is all the way down here. I think this is a mid to low candle tier, our third tier. I think given the fairly muted colourway, there's definitely room for some pattern work, or even better would be some work in terms of embossing or jacquard fabrics. Not typically things we associate with Castor, but a lot of brands are really pioneering that, and some of the plainer shirts actually can have a lot going for them when you do have a bit of use of fabric techniques to get patterns in the body of shirts. And that's a classic conversation. Then obviously in Halo Case you get a brand that can treat them right and not have template kits. Rumours of New Balance, which I think would be very interesting. It would be a big coup for New Balance, a brand who have been making a bit of a steady return to form after a few years lagging behind. They were, I mean, not so long ago, of course, they had some really big deals with the likes of Liverpool and Celtic, and they've still got a few big clubs, but it would be, I think that would be quite exciting. Adidas as well, reportedly, would be an easy choice. If Adidas gave them the full treatment, that would be great, but I think the reality is they, even despite Leverkusen's pedigree, they probably wouldn't get the full-on bespoke treatment, but we'll see. Guys, I do want to say thank you again for tuning in today. If you're watching on Twitter, welcome. You can join the chat on Twitter, and you can do that, I believe, if you click on the stream. So there's the kind of the stream card or whatever. Click on that and the chat window should be on your right. But you can also, of course, join in through YouTube, which is where the guys are chatting from. And if you've got any questions, chuck them in. I'll be happy to help them, again, whichever platform, and that'll be great. Now we come to Mets, a club who have been making waves in the shirt community, particularly with their very artistic range of shirts. They've had a number of special edition shirts and shirts which I believe one of the players was involved in. I forget exactly the story. I'm sure someone else could fill in the gaps. But of course they are with Kappa, and that is a good combination. That's already a good starting point. Kappa, I mean, of all the brands in world football, arguably the most stylish. Certainly a brand who are known for their kind of heavily fashion-esque inspired looks. This shirt from Mets has a lot going for it. It's funny because we've seen a slate of pink kits. We think of the recent Southampton kit, even Barnsley, some of these really bright, garish pinks. But this is a much softer pink, and it really suits the design well. We've got this pattern throughout the body, which again feels heavily fashion inspired. I say that again because the aesthetic of this pattern is very much like that, and I really like that it goes on the sleeves. It shouldn't be understated as well the importance of having all the sponsors in black. So yes, there are a lot of sponsors, but because they're all matched with the shirt, it doesn't detract too much from the design, and I think this is really strong. I really like, again, seeing that pattern continuing on all areas of the kit, and it is on the back. And this is so funny, right? It seems obvious to have this pattern on the back, but the amount of shirts which simply don't do this, even on a fairly subtle pattern like this, this shouldn't be, again, ignored. So I think this is absolutely fantastic. I really like this approach. I mean, again, if you think of pink kits, this is exactly the kind of pink kit that I like. Give me this any day over the likes of that Southampton kit. Even, I think this was Girona, wasn't it? We looked at that the other week. You know, that's fine, but this is much, much better. In fact, I think this is pushing for the Volcano tier, to be honest. I'm not quite going to put it there. It's going to be in the very competitive top end of the Flames tier, which is a good spot to be in. It's not quite registering enough with me to go with again our shirts in the Volcano tier, but it's not going to be far at all, and I do like it a lot. Typical Kappa things, honestly. It really is you know, a good year for the brand. I think this shirt deserves to be as high as here. I really like it. Let's stick Mets there, just below Cadiz. Good stuff. Good stuff from FC Mets and Kappa. And again, I believe, I forget what the name of the guy was that they were collaborating with. I think it says on the shirt, actually. Here we go. Sebastian Abdulhamid. Great job, Sebastian. And FC Mets. That is their really smart third kit, which I'd expect to be very popular with collectors as well. Ian says, if you do the Bruiser Banana shirt thing, Swindon's green away shirt was known as the Cabbage Patch Kid shirt. Green and white has been visited twice recently, looking like a Christmas tree. Brilliant. That's exactly the kind of thing. I mean, I'm just going to try and find it now, because that is great. Anytime a shirt has a nickname like that, you know you're onto something. Yeah, so here's the original. It's definitely, you can see the thinking there. And it looks like we need a few more Swindon fans and collectors to update the database here. But yeah, good stuff, in. Nice one. Thanks for that shout. Right, let's continue. And we come to Liverpool now. All in all, I have not been too excited by the Liverpool Nike partnership. It's a real shame. Going into it, I was very excited. You know, Liverpool, my team, and you know, I'm not the biggest Liverpool fan out there. You know, there's many more hardcore fans, but of course, I'm always looking out for their shirts. And Nike, one of my favourite brands. You know, I was expecting big things. It's largely been disappointed. This shirt is very, very safe, to the point of boring, I think. Now, we talked a bit about colours. We have talked about colours before, and the importance of sometimes revisiting colours. And this shade, this teal shade, I believe. Oh yeah, so it is actually called washed teal. It's funny. It's a colour which I most associate with the New Balance era. We talked about New Balance, and we talked about, again, what was effectively their modern heyday. It's blue enough that I think it reminds me much more of the 2019 third than it does the Adidas EQT or equipment era. Now that shade, which I think was a much better shade, was much greener. So it's funny because I think this colour to me is a very strong colour. I like it when Liverpool have nodded to that and used that darker green. Of course, there was a similar green with the following away shirt. And we've seen different shades of green, some more kind of truer greens, but you know, for example, the 2008 third was one of the best shirts of that decade for Liverpool, easily. A great shirt from that era, an underrated shirt from that era. And we saw later kits, again, some more successful than others. Now the 2020 away had a slightly similar shade, but it's funny. I mean, I can understand why Nike wouldn't pay tribute or use the color of the Adidas equipment era, of course, for obvious reasons. But ultimately, I don't think this little nod is strong enough, and it is, you know, a boring shirt. Nothing in the way of a bespoke dry fit ADV pattern or mapping, and you see that again would help, because when you have a plain shirt like this I believe is just the standard, and if you had a pattern in that, though it would, you know, still be somewhat underwhelming, I think at least it would give it a bit of a story. We've not seen a lot of that at all from Nike this year. And a few comments here from the guys. So Ian saying Liverpool shirt, just a black shirt with a really basic turquoise trim, sadly really bland. JPL said Liverpool away seems to be very popular with the fan base, but yeah, a bit underwhelmed. Meh kit says Daredevil. Yeah, I mean, these kits are popular with the general public. There's a reason blackout kits, black and gold kits, and just black kits in general are popular. This isn't actually kind of black necessarily. It's like a very, well, I think they've described it as dark green. It's very, very, it is very dark green, to the point when it is essentially black, for all intents and purposes. Although you can see the contrast there, I guess, with the black. Well, I say that might even just be dark navy. But anyway, you can see here it is a dark green. I honestly think the colourway, like if that was slightly greener in the base, not still quite dark, but slightly greener and with a different secondary shade and something in the way of a pattern in the body. Again, it could be subliminal, it could be part of the dry fit ADV mapping. I think this will actually have something about it, but it is ultimately very, very safe. Too safe, I think. It's not something that would go in the bottom of the tier list, but we are talking candle tier, and I don't think we can put it much higher than the kind of midfield area, the middle section of the candle tier, which is a shame as a Liverpool fan, but well, and actually it's worth saying as well, the home shirt, where did I rank that? Excuse me, I forget where we ranked that now. I'm pretty sure it was around this area. Here we go. Okay, so I actually put it quite high up in the camera tier. Yeah, the home shirt didn't wow me. I liked elements of it, but not the best convert. And the third shirt, we'll wait and see. I'm cautiously optimistic that I think that one could actually have something about it. But leaks are certainly quite unusual, shall we say. Just going to crack open my window. There we go. Right, let's continue though, guys, because we have more shirts to talk about. But that is the Liverpool away. What is next? We have Bournemouth's away. Now, quite a different approach. Liverpool's shirt, very subtle, very understated, to put it positively. But this is the Bournemouth away, which takes a slightly more daring approach. We talked about the kind of remake of patterns and the Bruiser Banana and obviously City shirt. This is another shirt reference to the 90s. I forget the exact look of the shirt we're talking about here, but if we go back to, again, Bournemouth's kit history, we can see. And speaking of Bruiser Banana, one very funny thing in the 90s was that many brands directly copied or ripped off the Bruiser Banana. And the thing is, brands were doing this across the board, so it's nothing specific to Arsenal and the Bruiser Banana, or Adidas and the Bruiser Banana design, because this was a match winner shirt, but a very similar design with a ridiculous colourway, quite a disgusting colourway. But that is what's referenced here. Now, this is one example of how you can take a design and instead of doing a close remake like the City shirt, you've got a much more kind of abstract take on the original. The colours are certainly carried through to an extent, and I quite like that. And actually, with the white base, it's a very different look. Certainly a look which feels a bit more, you know, it tones down the visuals quite a lot having the white base. And I think because the pattern is quite kind of washed out, quite blurry, it definitely takes the edge off the very visually arresting original. But as a consequence, I think there's a sense in which you kind of feel like they've held back a bit too much. But that's, I guess, a matter of personal taste. I think this one has done just about enough. Now, the sponsor is terrible. We talked about the new betting sponsor for Bournemouth, and that was a real letdown on their home shirt, which I think was actually quite strong and would have been much higher in the tier list were it not for that sponsor, even though it was recoloured. And somewhat confusingly, it's in an off-white shade here, even a beige shade, which makes it stand out quite a bit. And it's a shame because, you know, the Umbro logo, which is the Centenary logo, which is great, has been adapted to the shirt. Anyway, ultimately, I think this one is largely quite a successful nod, even if it's not a standout design. And actually, the colours, though again it is referenced to the null kit, it's not the nicest colourway. I do think, again, having the white takes the edge off. That's how I would describe it. Certainly, it could have been a lot crazier, and I would definitely say, you know, Umbro have done a pretty good job. This is one of their slightly under par efforts compared to their high standards, but I think the shirt is still actually pretty good. I think it deserves a spot just here. And again, I do like a lot of Umbro's work, particularly in the Football League in 2024. Ian saying, if you're the sort of customer who only buys shit once every 5 years or so, why can I not? So you wait for a good one. Indeed. That's Bournemouth. We crack on. We stay in England, this time with Fulham. Now, Fulham, one of a number of clubs who over the years have had kind of AC Milan colours. I mean, we talked about City at the top of the show. They're another one who have had black and red striped kits in their history. It's a good theme for Fulham, and I like this. I like these repeated themes. Again, one of the things which I enjoy is, you know, when you have a team who every few years they'll pay tribute to a colourway. Now, Fulham do this a lot, and I think if anything, they do it more than perhaps they could. But this is much more successful than something like the 2019 show, which was terrible. One of the templates at the time, excuse me. The difference of, like, despite it being quite a plain shirt, there's nothing too exciting about the design, but having solid stripes like this, ultimately it's a much improved look compared to something like that 2019 kit. Excuse me. My internet is not really behaving today. Let's just yeah, so I think just as Adidas have been treating Fulham, I think actually, yeah, they have largely been, even though they're not at the level of relationship where they're getting fully bespoke kits. There have been some good steps in the right direction. I think Adidas in general, with some of their teams outside their top tier, it's good to see some progress, I think, in terms of some of the designs. I think notably the likes of Leeds and some of their work recently has highlighted that. So it's a safe design for Fulham. It's a design which has been enjoyed over the years, and I do like it, even though it doesn't particularly bring much new to the table. I think it is a largely positive design, a largely positive away kit. Not enough to move from the middle of the counter tier. Not the worst place to be, though. let's continue with Valencia, one of my favourite teams. And this is actually an interesting combination of colours with the green here. And I didn't actually realise this, but Valencia actually did have orange and green kits in their past. If we go to, again, we've been using this site a lot because there's a lot of shirts inspired by old designs. I don't think it's actually in, yes, it's not on our football shirts database, but you can find pictures of orange and green kits. Now, it's a real shame because I love the colours. I think the combination looks quite fresh, and this to me is a much superior combo to something like the Derby shirt that we looked at. But I want anything alongside this color combo. I love it. I'm glad to see the full color crest as well, because again, it's quite typical to see recolor crest these days, and sometimes actually you lose something by that, and I'm glad that we have the full Valencia crest. But you know, anything in the body in the way of a pattern, or the sleeves or the cuffs, a stronger backnet detail than this, which is just the kind of like default detail. We've seen that on other recent Valencia shirts. There's almost nothing to that. There's no jock tag or anything. So I think, you know, this is a great idea. I love the colours, again, particularly in some of these edited promo shots. But that's like, sometimes that's enough of a story. I don't think this is enough though. I don't think this one has enough in and of itself. And it's a shame because I do, again, like Valencia, and I do like orange Valencia kits. I think this one is a really good idea to bring back with the green. Could have been so much better though. And I think it'd be hard to put this much higher than the kind of border of the Candle tier and the Flames tier. I think I will just stick at the Flames tier. This is probably personal bias showing here, but I do think the combo is fantastic, and it is one you rarely see in football. But there's so much more you can do with this base. It's a great kind of platform to build from. I'd love to see a bit more. And actually, yeah, Ian says I have the Real Betis shirt and very similar colourway. Yeah, very, very similar. And that I think that wasn't to everyone's taste. I think that did a lot of good things. Yeah, it wasn't my favourite in terms of design, but certainly a memorable take in that colourway. And largely quite a successful one. Andreas saying the Bournemouth home shirt reminds me of the AC Milan home. And was saying Miami Hurricanes kit. Yeah, indeed. Definitely has that vibe, isn't it? I'm just going to look at the AC Milan shirt you're referring to, just because I'm struggling to remember that one. Now, do you mean, is that, you said the 2012 home? Did you mean the 2022 home? Come back to me that one. Cool. Now we've got Wolves, Toulouse. We've got a few more teams coming up. Let's continue and let's go a bit quicker. I try to this without fail. This always fails, but I'm going to try and do a slightly quicker run. Wolves, the brand Sudo, still finding their way in the game. I think this design, it's quite memorable. We've seen stronger looks with this kind of this approach. I think of the Senegal shirt, which again was vaguely similar. I think this pattern could have been executed better. It's a very novel idea, but to me, this one doesn't have quite. Sorry, I was looking at Senegal. Quite the. Yeah, it's reminiscent to me of the Roma shirt. Now, I think partly because of the colorway, this single element was slightly stronger. And I wonder if we did need a little bit of white in there potentially as a third colour. But it is a fun idea. I would probably put this one though in the candle tier. The 12-13. Gotcha. That's all good. Yeah, and I'm curious to see. I've not seen much actually about Sudu from a kind of quality perspective. They're definitely like there's the hints of some good work with the fabric. I'd be curious to see one of these shirts in person. On first impressions, it does look like they may actually be doing some interesting things. Whether it's, I'm not entirely sure if it is actually like a jacquard part of the fabric or what have you, but yeah, definitely a brand I'm intrigued to see more of in the game. That's the Wols shirt. I'm going to stick it here. It's not quite doing it for me. But what about Toulouse? From a brand we don't know much about at all to Nike. Essentially just it's just a Sash shirt in the one of the constructions of the templates from the previous round of Nike kits. Not too much to say here. I think having this sponsor is certainly a bit of a dominating feature on the kit. If you look across again any promo shirt, we've seen much worse sponsors though. It is at least somewhat in the middle. I mean, that's bugging me a little bit that it appears to be not quite aligned in the middle of the sash, and that alone is a bit like when we talked about the Bournemouth sponsor letting that shirt down. I think having the Toulouse sponsor there, I mean, I'm being extremely picky, but it looks to me that whilst it's aligned on the top, it overhangs slightly on the bottom. You know, no one's going to see that or care about that, but it does bother me. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the way the template's been utilised, I appreciate that they've actually included, they've recoloured this little these sections here on the neckline to match the base, but it's not not the strongest colourway for a Sash kit. I think typically, though not a hard and fast rule, more of a contrast on the Sash usually produces better kits, I would say, as opposed to a more tonal look. But you know, I'd still put it somewhere in the middle of the pack here in the candle tier. Probably a bit higher. I mean, I'm being a bit harsh. If we go here, I think that seems. What have we got? Let's go here. Not too bad. That is the UWSL. Definitely has that vibe for sure. We've seen some good purple kits out of there, out of that league, but it's no Fiorentina kit, in my opinion. Now, what about Lille? Again, we've referenced a little bit of New Balance. This is a fairly trippy design, it must be said. I actually think I quite like the pattern as an idea. Perhaps a little bit. Sorry, I just muted myself there. Perhaps a little bit too on the nose. And I must say, this colourway isn't doing too much for me. This feels very New Balance to me. I feel like, you know, when they were not Farsi, Celtic. When New Balance were with Celtic, we had the what was it? I'm sure there was a New Balance kit. Yeah, okay, that was the 2019. That was particularly bad. But we saw a number of grey kits. Actually, to be fair, it's more reminiscent of the Adidas shirt from a couple of years ago. But anyway, I digress. It's not my favourite colour. I actually think the pattern has something about it, and it is on the back. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes some of the crazier patterns do actually make their way into the back of the shirt, which is a real positive. Yeah, so it's got this kind of hypnotic look. I think we've seen again better approaches with these kind of crazy psychedelic patterns. I do think the colourway, the grey is a hard colour to make work, and I don't think it looks that strong when paired with this this fairly kind of pale yellow. So certainly a memorable design. It's not really doing enough for me, and I don't think, again, this colourway is a positive personally, but I think despite it being very much more of a novelty than anything else, I could see this one in the middle of the counter tier, where a few shirts have landed today. Let's go here for Lille and New Balance. Port Vale and their away kit. Now, we talked about garish colours. Well, this is certainly garish. Now, the more I look at this kit, the less I like it. I think from a pattern, that pattern has some potential, that has some legs. I think this is just a disgusting colourway though. To have the bright yellow, the illumination, and the pink, it's bold, it's memorable, and I don't think it works, quite simply. I mean, it's funny because we talked about when we went the City shirt, that of course has a very similar shade of yellow. I don't think this is referring to an old Port Vale kit, but please do correct me if I'm wrong. I think, you know, Puma have had a few kits of this, and I'll include the Southampton kit. I've seen a lot of that on the timeline recently. Not particularly good to look at. This one is an easy Ice Cube tier. We've had a couple today in the Ice Cube tier. I think I probably like it even less than the Derby shirt. So a couple of real stinkers there from Puma, and this one definitely is one of my least favourites of the year. Not a good look at all. Staying, or coming back I should say, to Toulouse, we have the Toulouse away kit. In terms of a colourway, you've got the yellow and purple, the sort of LA Lakers colourway. So just catching up on the chart, and then that's I think quite an interesting starting point. Not a colour combo you see often, though it again does remind me of the Lakers. But looking at the pattern in the body, this has a lot going for it. I think certainly in terms of the style, this sort of subliminal style has a lot of potential because it allows you to inject quite a bit of creativity and pattern work into a kit without taking away from the overall aesthetic. So this is clearly still a yellow base, and from a distance it almost looks like you know, it's the pattern work is very sparse. It has this kind of textural look to it, but I like these sorts of patterns. One of the reasons I bang on about subliminal patterns all the time is that they look great from a distance, but then also up close you start to see, okay, you can see little elements here, little elements there. This is a very successful pattern in my eyes, and I think in combination with a collar which neckline Nike haven't actually overused. Of course, this is just a base style, but one of the lesser used Nike styles. That looks good. If anything, the crest application could be stronger. You know, this kind of simple transfer is definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. But I am a fan of this one. I do think this one actually has enough to go in the Flames tier. Only just. But I think this is personally superior to the Sash kit. And it's all about the pattern for me. It's all about that very subtle pattern which adds a lot of interest, particularly up close, but also works from a distance. Just a good pattern. Nothing well beaten, but I'm happy to see it. So Toulouse and their away kit, I have no problem putting them up here. It's pretty good stuff. I'd even, stick it just above Valencia. That feels about right. Ian says the Port Vale colourway is very, never mind the bollocks. Sure, I'll take your word for that. I'll take your word for that. We come to Palermo now with their home and away kit from Puma. We've talked a lot about Puma today. Let's start with the home. I think that feels a bit more appropriate. And then we'll go to the away. Now, Palermo kits, like a lot of teams of world football, are starting from an interesting point because of their colours. They have very distinctive colours. The pink of Palermo is beloved across the world. As a style, as a base style, I like seeing this approach from Puma where actually the pattern of the shirt isn't in the middle of the shirt or the central panel of the shirt, but instead on the sleeves and on the sides. Now, we talked about subliminal patterns. This very much is that. Quite washed out. I'd be intrigued to see this in a slightly more crisper style, something a bit more akin to what we saw on the Met shirt. And I think ultimately this isn't as strong as that Met shirt, but it does do a lot of the same things. Again, it has a slightly softer pink base, which is a tick in my book, and it does have this kind of repeated pattern, albeit not as crisp again. Excuse me. Mets, man, I just suddenly hit a wall at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course, they've also recoloured their various sponsors, which, is a mercy given that there are, again, multiple on the front. I think this one, though, is, again, it's a notable step back from the Mets kit. I think that one, whilst that one was a high Flames tier, I think this Palermo one is much lower. Probably just missing out for me on the Flames tier, despite some successful elements. I think I'm largely a little bit low. I mean, I've said this before. This is hardly newsflash for long-term viewers. I'm a bit down on Puma this year as a whole, and I think their template, their base styles are in drastic need of an update. Something to kind of freshen up the brand, honestly. But that is the Palermo home. We'll stick them at the very bottom of our second tier, our Flames tier. Moving to their away. Will this fare any better? Well, from a colour perspective, this is a strong combination for the club. And I must say, I do like the mirrored nature of this kit. This now takes that pattern which was on the sleeves and side of the home, and instead now we have it on the central panel and not on the sides. And the combination is good, and I like seeing that. I like seeing when the home and away kit, it feels like they are complementing each other well. So the same pattern that's shared, but where that pattern is placed is different. And I do like that technique. Honestly, now seeing that combination, it does make me think higher of the home shirt. I'll keep it where it's ranked. Excuse me. But nonetheless, I think this is even better than the home. For me, though I do appreciate the differences and having that pattern again on the on particular areas of the kit for the home, I would edge this one slightly higher. The away, that is, than the home. But I do like the combo for Palermo. And it's good stuff. I really like what they have done, how they have paired the home and away kits. It's not uncommon, I think, these days for home and away shirts to feel very disparate. Sometimes it does feel like when you see, a team's home and or away shirt, there's so little synergy or kind of shared elements that it feels quite disconnected, to the point of either shirt being slightly impacted, I would say, in terms of its perception. sometimes it's quite nice to have some connection. You don't have to have that, but I do appreciate it when you do see that. Where do we have the home? I forget now where that was ranked. Yeah, sorry, so that was literally just right in front of me, right there. As such, I think the away will be slightly higher, but still nothing too much higher. We'll go here for Palermo. Pretty good home and away combo for the Italian side. Now I've got a few more kits to rank, so let's finish with Charlton, Norrköping, Bristol City, Brighton, Levante, and Nice, and Millwall. So there's actually a few more. You know what? I think actually this will be a good point to leave it. And the reason I say that is we've been just going for an hour. Yeah, and I'm going to make a note to pick up back from Palermo. So we started, didn't we, with City? So I'll do City to Palermo. I can spell. There we go. Yeah, I think that's a good point to call it a day at the Hot Wall. As means of a recap, we had a couple of real shockers today, it must be said, with the likes of Port Vale and Derby. But it was not all bad, and indeed, on the other end of the spectrum, the likes of Metz really came to play. And I did quite like a City shirt. That's where we started, and I think it was one of the stronger releases of the past week. An obvious kind of retro nod, but sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes you just want a shirt which looks like an old shirt. And that's, I think, what we got with the City shirt. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you especially for those newer viewers, those who have tuned in through X and Twitter, or Twitter, I should say. Great to have your company. Great to have the company of the usual YouTube crew as well. Thank you to you guys. Any final questions, stick them in the chat. Happy to answer them. But if not, we will call it a day. But yeah, next week we'll be back same time. And hopefully a bit longer as well. I think we'll try and get a 2-hour stream in. All being well. No eBay stream, but then we will have on Monday week. So Monday is it the 18th or 19th? No, it's the 19th, isn't it? Monday the 19th, we'll have our first weekly news stream, which we'll do. So look out for details about that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And as I say, if you're new, thank you for stopping by. Please consider subscribing. Oh, the June kit. The Daredevil, that's on my list of things to do, and I've not yet properly started on the concepts for that, so I need to at some point. But yeah, I think because ultimately that's not it's just low on the priority list, but I need to get to that at some point. Yeah, so it's on the list, but I can't make any promises there. If I get a bit of time there when I can get the pencils out, the crayons out to do some designing, we can get onto that hopefully. But thank you for the heads up, the reminder though. Cool. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for your comments. Good to hang out as always. I will see you hopefully this time next week. I'll speak to you before then. All the best, guys. Thank you. See you very soon.